I've never been any good at sitting still. But as soon as that helmet goes on, the world fades away and I'm in my element. Left hand on the 40, 62, 70, 9, max, yellow, green, launch, don't finish line, pull shoot. Try to keep eyeballs from falling out.
Today's guest, Sarah Edwards, laid eyes on the Queen of Diamonds jet dragster at the age of 12 and immediately knew that's what she wanted to do. Sarah was not raised at the racetrack like most others who participate in the sport, but she knew she wanted to drive the quarter mile at over 300 miles an hour. From 2016 to 2018, she did just that in the Hanna Motorsports jet dragster, the Queen of Diamonds. What does it take for someone to accomplish such a huge dream, especially one with a jet engine strapped to the back of your vehicle that propels you to over 300 miles per hour? Well, let's find out. Welcome to the Cutting Edge Garage Podcast.
Sarah Edwards, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. This interview is something that I've wanted to do since I met you at SEMA, and my team started talking about doing the podcast. You were at the top of the, people we've got to have on here kind of thing.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut on the East Coast, and I did not come from a drag racing family whatsoever. I'm an only child. I'm still with my parents. And my parents didn't go drag racing. And one night in the summer, my dad, who is an appliance repairman, he's driving around in his van, heard an ad for Raceway Park in New Jersey for their annual Night of Thrills event. And he came home and he said, why don't we go? We'll take the boys next door that I grew up with. They're like brothers. Why don't we hop in the car and go down on a Wednesday night? And I don't know, it's something different, something kind of fun. So that night came around and off we went, and it really sparked something. It was the Night of Thrills event, Raceway Park. We have monster trucks, jet cars. It's basically a variety show. It's not like hardcore racing. It's a variety show. It's all exhibition racing. So you have monster trucks, you have jet cars, jet funny cars. You have, if you're lucky enough, you might get one or two top fuel cars. You've got regular door cars and dragsters and street cars going. And it just captivated me 110%. The sight, the sound, the sensation. When NHRA says, the National Hot Rod Association, when they say that it ignites your senses, they're not kidding you. That's the perfect description of what NHRA drag racing is, or just drag racing, as it is itself, when you go to a small track and go to a variety show, basically. So that night there was the Queen of Diamonds jet car. And again, the other really amazing thing about our sport, NHRA drag racing, is that every ticket is a pit pass. So you walk through those gates and it may be $45 a person for the thrill show, but you get every bit of your money's worth. You get to sit where you want to sit in the bleachers. You get to go right up to the ropes and meet these drivers, watch them wrench on their car, put their fire suits on, get ready and thrash and all the above. So we went and we're in the stands and we see the Queen of Diamonds go down against the Beast from the East, Ernie Bogue. And she won, and she went over 300 miles an hour, and everybody's cheering because it's a girl. And then you get to go back and meet who that face is under that helmet. And when I saw that she was young and she was blonde, I was like, I could do that. And now I'm 12 at the time. I'm like, that's what I want to do one day. And my
12 years old.
12 years old. My parents are like, right. You saw it once. Yeah, it's cool. Who wouldn't want to do that, right? I did ballet, I did karate, I did everything in between. And, I grew out of it within 5 weeks of doing it. So they're like, yeah. But drag racing kind of became a tradition. So every year after that, we would go back to that same event. And I'd bring a different friend each time or whatever. Then we started going to NHRA races, the professionals on the circuit. And it would be at Englishtown. Then we went out to Reading, Pennsylvania, Maple Grove track raceway. And that was the last track that we had gone to. And by this time I was in high school, maybe a freshman. And my parents were like, well, what do you think? Would you want to come back? And I was like, honestly, it's a traveling circus. We all know that. There's no secret there. They pack up and go to the next track. And I said, I don't want to come back unless I'm driving. I mean, we kind of saw it in New Jersey. We saw it in Pennsylvania. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it, but I want to drive. Right. And my parents were like, really? Like, okay, if this is something you still want to do, the deal is you have to graduate high school first with good grades, and then we'll talk. Okay, fine, no problem. I love school. I was good in school, all that. So I graduated, and June of 2010, in that July, I got to go to Frank Hawley's drag racing school. And for those who don't know, Frank Hawley is like the god of drag racing teachers. He's taught Jack Beckman. Jack Beckman actually teaches for him. He's taught all the best. Everybody has come up through Frank Hawley, and it was an amazing experience. So I got to go to his school back at Reading, Maple Grove Raceway. So it was kind of funny that the last track I had gone to and said I didn't want to come back unless I was driving was where I went to get my NHRA license. So I went there, participated in the 2-day course. Probably the most nervous I've ever been in my entire life, even to date, was those 2 days. I didn't know if I was going to puke. I didn't know what was going to happen, because I had never really been in a race car prior to that class. Like I said, I did not grow up in a racing family. We have a really cool garage here, but it wasn't full of race cars growing up. My dad wasn't wrenching on cars. So I had never stepped on a track until that day to know how sticky it was. So there was a lot of nerves like building up through that experience. And in that experience, you have 6 runs out of your 2-day course. And out of the 6, you need 5 to be completed correctly. And then you could get your license. And I was going for my NHRA Super Comp license, which is about 160 miles an hour, 160 miles an hour in like 8.9 seconds. And I failed a lot in that class. Like, I did not get it right away. I didn't move the way the other guys were moving, but I was there for my NHRA license. Like, there was a lot of older men that were there participating in the class where their wives had gotten them this as like a bucket list gift or something of that sort. But I was really there because I wanted to become a drag racer. So I eventually had to stay after, make 3 extra passes, and I got my license. And then from there, we purchased a race car, a dragster, truck and trailer and all that. And then we went bracket racing for 4 years at one track only in South Jersey. So about 3.5 hours from my house. That became my local track because there's no drag strips in Connecticut. And then just as I was getting the hang of what bracket racing even was, because that was foreign to me, I had gotten a Facebook message from Hanna of Hanna Motorsports, who owns the Queen of Diamonds, who asked me if I would be interested in driving for them. And I accepted that offer, and I drove the iconic Queen of Diamonds 300-mile-an-hour jet car from 2016, 17, and 18.
And that was your goal back at 12 years old, right?
Yeah. Yep. So it was very interesting. It was completely full circle to be this little girl who basically, you think of a little girl staring at anything that gives her wide eyes. And that's what a jet car was to me, and being at the racetrack. And then to get the opportunity that you didn't ask for directly, I guess maybe you've put it out into the universe that that's what you wanted to do, but you never specifically went to somebody and was like, hey, how can I apply to drive your car? To get that offer was incredible. It took me a long time to accept it too. Like, I had gotten the offer in late October. I was thrown in the car on Halloween weekend, started testing, getting, working towards my license and all that. And I'm doing all this and nobody knows about it except for immediate family. And I was very, like, looking back, I can admit now, not during it, that I was kind of like cranky, I guess, and like very short, because I couldn't believe that I was getting the opportunity. I almost felt like I didn't deserve it because I felt like I didn't work hard enough towards it. But that's just who I've been my entire life with schoolwork. I'm always very hard on myself. So that was, looking back now, it's like, wow, like how lucky was I?
It was probably a tremendous amount of pressure, I'm thinking, on
Of course,
on a young girl.
Because you're not expecting the offer. You're never really you wish for it, but you never really think it's going to come knocking on your door, and you can't decline that. I mean, you're never going to get that offer again in your life. So you're pretty much compelled to do it, which is risky because it's kind of out of your comfort zone. And I'm very much like to be in my comfort zone. But how do you say no? So it took a lot, like, mentally and emotionally to get to the place where I truly embraced that opportunity.
So how much of a difference is it running a traditional dragster versus running the jet car?
The whole thing is different. 100% different. In my dragster that I was just getting the hang of, never even won a race in it. I won a few rounds. In the last weekend in October of 2015, I was running 2 races at the same time, and I went to the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and that was the farthest I've ever gone in bracket racing. Bracket racing is cutthroat. Like, these guys are no joke. And we're like, oh my God, as my father, my boyfriend, then my fiance now, we're all like, wow, we finally figured it out. Next year we might win a race. And then you get this opportunity, and we parked the whole operation because part of Al's thing was I wasn't seasoned enough as a driver, which I fully respect. Everything I did in my bracket dragster was the complete opposite of what I was to do in the jet car. So in the bracket car, you leave on a trans brake, which means you hold the button down and then you release it when you leave the starting line. In a jet car, you have your fingers off pretty much all the buttons until you're ready to go, and then you apply your fingers to the buttons to activate them and go. In the bracket car, I had a hand brake and a foot brake. In the jet car, I had 2 floor brakes, like 2 brakes that were pedals. And the throttle was controlled with a lever in the cockpit, like up by my right hand. So everything was just opposite. So that was really, really interesting because you would take your fingers off buttons to leave, and now you have to put your fingers on buttons. And it's all muscle memory. And that's really something that Frank Hawley taught me in his course. It wasn't so much about how to drive the car, even though he did teach you that. It was more, he really dove into how your mind works, how your muscles work, and how they all work together. And sooner than later, driving that jet car became something you could do in your sleep. You just had to know your process, trust your process, go through it, and execute.
What about the sensation? So lots of G's in a traditional dragster, even more in the jet car. Is it different because of the way it accelerates? Yeah,
absolutely, totally different. So my bracket car ran in the top dragster super pro bracket racing classes, and it covered the quarter mile in about 180 miles an hour in 7.5 seconds. In fact, I actually have a chrome roll cage, so NHRA rules, I'm not allowed to go quicker than 7.5 seconds. In the jet car, I'm traveling the same distance, a quarter mile, but at 300 miles an hour in less than 5.5 seconds. And when you leave the line, the starting line, it's 4 G's on your chest. When you reach the finish line, it's negative 6 G's. So you have a 10 G swing. But when you leave the line in my traditional dragster, the bracket car, you really have that launch because it's motor driven. There's a transmission. Your tires are like wrinkled and just grip into the track, and you go, and your head will kind of, move forward and snap back. In fact, I like that sensation so much. My dad and Steve had turned it down, and I was like, turn that back up. I like feeling like my head's going to snap. I feel like I've got grit, like I'm doing something. And in the jet car, you don't get that sensation on the starting line because you have 6,000 pounds of thrust propelling you with a GE J85 F5 fighter engine behind you from a retired fighter jet. But you get that sensation 5.5 seconds later when you cross the finish line, kill the engine, deploy 2 parachutes, and you try and stop. 0 to 300 is really smooth. 300 to 5 miles an hour is the ride of your life.
I was gonna say that's one heck of
And it was
an amusement
the
park
favorite
ride.
part. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, how many ladies have been 300 plus miles an hour?
So I was the fifth Queen of Diamonds, fifth and final. And then there's a few other ladies that are in the jet car category. Overall, driving a jet car, drag racing, is a pretty elite class. There's not too many of us out there. In the country, there might be 30 to 45 people, if that, who actively are holding a jet exhibition license right now. Obviously, there's been plenty that have come before and plenty that have come after, but currently, it's not like bracket racing where you have 150, drivers show up for one event. So it's a pretty small little group of knuckleheads that will strap themselves to a fighter jet engine. But we do 300 miles an hour, so my car was pretty consistent with the 298, 299 up to about 301. But sorry, that's my dad's Harley clock going off. I don't know if you can hear
worries. It. I can.
But then we also have the top fuel ranks where now they're doing 330 miles an hour in 4 seconds, and there's definitely females in that class as well. So the really great thing about NHRA that I don't think a lot of people know, and unfortunately it doesn't get the same light where NASCAR might or IndyCar, is it's an extremely diverse sport. We've got kids starting at 5 years old in junior dragsters. How cool is that? They're going
awesome.
40 miles an hour in the 8th mile. And it's boys, girls, it's mostly girls in junior dragsters, all the way up through door cars, sportsman classes, which there's 15 classes within that, up to the professional ranks. And NHRA has the most winning females in it than any other motorsport. So I'm proud to be a part of an organization and in love and passionate about an organization that is accepting of we have all walks of life. When I was driving the bracket car, the guy who worked on my transmission had one arm, and he drove a dragster better with one arm than I could with two arms. So it's a really great group of people, as in the automotive industry.
That's awesome. At one point, you were in an accident or something in Queen of Diamonds?
Yes.
So what happened, and did that freak you out?
So that was my last race in that car. I was running Bristol, and that was my first time at that track in Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol Dragway, or Thunder Valley. And I knew it was a bumpy track. I knew it had its challenges. Our team was going through some little bit of a transition at the time also. And I sat in the stands that day with my crew guy and watched cars go down for 45 minutes, one after another, just to see where they would kind of, get a little loose or move around a little bit. And I got in the car and I made my first pass of the night, and it was really bumpy. Driving a jet car should be so smooth. Your steering wheel is 100% there for a reason, but you shouldn't have to overdrive it the way you would drive a funny car or an alcohol car or something like that. And it definitely had its challenges. And then I went out for the second run, and I stayed in the same lane because my opponent had said the same thing. It was really bumpy in his lane, and we felt it was best to keep us both where we were. And I was going down the track, and the last thing I remember was, this is dangerous, this is bumpy, and I pulled my throttle back to kill the engine and deployed the chutes. And when I had done that, I believe, and people had kind of confirmed who saw it, that I think from hitting a bump that my front wheels were in the air, and the way my chutes had blossomed, when they did, it kind of slammed my front end down. And in doing so, it all happened so quick. I took a really hard right into the wall at about 280 plus miles an hour. So I hit the wall. The front end just broke free, as it's designed to do by the chassis builder, who I owe a lot of credit to. That broke free. I hit the wall. I barrel rolled all the way to the other side. I actually clipped my opponent's front end of his car, hit the wall on the other side, and then when I had come back towards my side, I was sliding on my right side the whole way, still within the car, still strapped in. My chassis, my safety equipment, everything did 100% what it is designed to do. And with that said, I walked out with a bruise on my knee and, an achy back. No injuries. I had gone to the hospital, to be checked out, but everything came back fine. The car was completely destroyed. And in fact, after that night, that's part of the reason there is no more Queen of Diamonds. But again, I everything back to the Hannas and Dan Page, who built that car. Al Hanna, if you know drag racing, you know jets. He's been around for 55 years, and his, passion for our sport and passion for keeping everybody safe, everything did what it was supposed to do that night. So I'm incredibly thankful that he did pay that much attention to safety, because it saved me that night. Unfortunately, it cost them a car. I resigned shortly after that incident, and but they went on. They built another jet car. They brought back his original Eastern Raider name, and they're out running that.
Awesome. Did the accident shake you up?
It shook my family up. If it was up to me and my back didn't hurt that night, I wish I could have gotten. There was a car. I wish I could have gotten back in that car that night and went back down the track, just to, how they say riding a horse, you fall off, you have to get back on. I wish I could have done that.
Right.
That wasn't the case. And I haven't been in a car since then. So I'm kind of looking forward to getting back out to the track. But it really, it shook my family up. My parents went to every single race. We would be gone 15 to 17 weekends a summer. And they were there every single weekend. My dad on the starting line, my mom off on the sides. And that was a lot for them. It was ugly. It was bad. How I walked out of it, I have no idea. I know, but I have no idea at the same time. But I still love my sport. I still am all about it. And so I think it shook my family up more than it shook me up, because even though in that car I had become out of control, because now hitting the wall, everything else was in control other than me, but that I was in it and I felt all those sensations. I was awake for everything. Feeling it is different than watching somebody go through something.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And as a dad with 4 girls, I could, I can definitely imagine, your mom and dad, not being overly ecstatic about, you racing after that.
Yeah.
So you do plan on racing again?
I would love to. I still have my bracket dragster. It's sitting right outside of this garage in the trailer. Pre-COVID, we had all intentions of kind of getting our act together and just getting out there and shaking the cobwebs off. Then COVID kind of came around and just kind of slowed everybody down. And I don't want to say lost desire, but I don't know. It's a funny year.
It's been a crazy year. Oh,
it's been a weird year. But I would love to have the opportunity to get my alcohol license and run an alcohol dragster. If if money was never an object and I could put funding and a team together to hop in a nitro car and dragster, I'm dragster only, no funny cars. I would give the world to run just 1 year on the NHRA circuit with a team. I think that would be something just incredible. But at the same time, I'm very content with what I have accomplished up until now. Like I said, to be 12 years old, to have a dream, and then to execute the dream, I thrived. I loved every single second of it. And it's not so much just the driving the car. I really enjoy driving the car and becoming that race car driver. But driving the jet car was a whole different game. You're going to some events where I met David Aiken actually with 40,000 people in the stands, and you've got little girls coming up to you and kids and all walks of life. And to me, the most important part of my day, other than safely going A to B on the track, of course, was to give every single person that 5 seconds of attention that they paid for. Bill Bader Summit Motorsports Park Night Under Fire. It's a huge event. I don't know if you've heard of it or been to it. He brings
I saw
in
it
John
on your
Ford.
website.
Yeah, that my video is from there.
Yeah.
So he brings everybody in, and we have a drivers meeting. And one of the things I took away from that meeting was he said, you were handpicked, you were invited to be here, and people have paid money, and you are here to entertain them. You are entertainers tonight. It's not that it's not so much about the racing, but it's about putting on a good show. And there are people who this might be their last. They might be fighting an illness. They came out because they want 3 to 5 hours to forget about how hard their life might be when they go home. And that was something that will always stay with me. That means a lot to me. And I love to be out there with the kid, with everybody, from a couple of months old to 102 years old. And that was my absolute favorite part of the job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you're going to do that next year? Yes?
I would love to.
Okay. Awesome. So how has that transition been with you not racing, and what are you doing to keep yourself busy? You don't strike me as the type of girl to sit around and do nothing. So I can imagine you have a very busy schedule and projects that you're working on. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I've always held a full-time job while racing professionally and gone 15 to 17 weekends out of the summer. Last September, I've been working with an interior designer, which is what I went to school for. I went to school for interior design. For the past 7 years, I've been working with her. And finally, I always worked with her, and then I worked for like a construction company in the office, just doing administrative work. So I worked the 2 jobs and then hit the track on the weekend, and everybody was like super flexible. But last September, I got to join Jody, the interior designer, full time, which has been a dream come true. I thrive. I love my job. I love waking up every morning and every day being completely different. And even if you had a plan, it all goes out the window most of the time. So that keeps me busy. My first year, resigning at the end of 2018 brings you into fall and the winter. And then last summer, I didn't drive at all, but I did an event at Virginia Motorsports Park with David from Toy Makers. I filmed an episode of Toy Makers with him. So I had little projects like that still kept me around the track. I got to go out to Maple Grove in September for the Dodge NHRA Nationals, but this time as media. I got to go out as a track photographer and stand on the wall and take pictures of cars, top fuel cars going down. And any reason to be at the track, I'm a good spectator. I just really enjoy the atmosphere, and I'll never lose the sense of being a fan and being in front of people like, John Force and Ron Capps and Leah Pruitt and all them. I'm still in awe. Even though I've been considered a professional driver, there's still something magical about like seeing teams work. And so I'll never lose that. So I got to do a lot of racing stuff last year. And this year, I don't know if it's because of COVID and like having the handcuffs on where you really can't get out and do as much. I miss it so much. I just want to go out. I want to rip a car down the track. I want to work on putting a team together and having a direction for 2021 because I really, really enjoy it. And like I said, with driving the jet car, I enjoyed driving it. I thrived with the people, but I also really grew to love the work it takes behind the scenes. Like I said, I went to school for interior design. I don't have a marketing degree. I don't have a business degree, but Al really gave me the chance and some tools to learn how to go after a sponsorship, which was something I didn't know anything about. And I have no problem picking up the phone and making a cold call or sending an email. So I enjoyed many of nights where I would be in my office till 2 a.m, after a full day of work, trying to figure out how to make that team and that brand grow. And ultimately, all that kind of stuff put notches in my belt that I could apply towards Sarah Edwards Racing now.
You also are recently engaged, are you not?
I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So how did that come about?
So we've been together
That
a
wasn't,
very
hey,
long time.
COVID's kicking our butt, we can't do anything, might as well get married. It
Yeah,
wasn't like that, was it?
No. So we've been together going on like 9 years, a long time. And poor thing, after we got engaged, obviously he filled me in on all the secrets that he had the ring since like February, and then COVID came through. And we have a home up in Vermont, so he really wanted to get my parents and his parents together up there for the proposal. And right when we were about to go out, because everybody was working from home, they had put this huge travel ban out. So we're like, we can't go. Well, my dad was really the only one who still never like stopped working. But my mom and I, we were working from home, and his parents. So just when they put this huge travel ban on was when we were supposed to go up, like all of us. And I remember being like, I don't know, like what if we can't come back? Like my dad can't miss 2 weeks of work. And then I'm like, well, my dad doesn't really quarantine because of work. Like maybe he shouldn't be in the same house as your parents. He's like, oh, forget it. Then you know what? It's off. Nobody's going. So I guess
That's funny.
I like inadvertently like kiboshed those plans. And then I know that one night he was down in the basement with my dad, and that was the night he was asking my dad, because we're very traditional. And he told me after, he goes, I just barely got it out. And there I hear the feet, and it's me, because I can't miss a beat. I have to be involved in everything. And I remember going down, and they're like sitting, swinging their feet like on the work benches, and it's like dead silence. So I kind of locked in on that. But he ultimately proposed on May 30th. It was a Saturday, and we were on our way up to Vermont finally. And he had pulled over to a wooden covered bridge that I've always loved and wanted to take our Christmas card pictures under one day. And I'm like, what do you do? Well, first we had to go to Home Depot for stuff for the house. And he told me that there was a traffic jam or construction. I'm like, no, there's no way. But all right, whatever. I'm like, what are cows crossing the road? So we like take this detour, and then it brings us towards the bridge. And I'm like, where are you going now? We're never going to get to the house. He's like, you've always wanted to take a picture in front of the bridge, so get out and take the picture. And as I had my back to him, he was getting the ring and he was getting himself ready. And then I had turned around and he was on his knee. So
That's awesome.
It was fun. Yeah.
And you made him work for it.
Exactly.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
So, yeah, it's all good.
Very cool. So,
yeah.
You still have Sarah Edwards Racing is up. You're on social media. You've got Facebook, Instagram, for people
Twitter.
that want to get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
Are you doing any kind of I saw on your website you did something with the local school. Are you doing anything with trying to inspire kids and things like that, or?
Yeah, pre-COVID, when it was a normal world out there, I loved getting involved with schools. We have an organization out here called Live Girl, and I would do.
I'm sorry, what's it called?
Live Girl.
Okay.
It's a nonprofit, and I've done Zoom stuff with them a little bit through COVID. I've done talks for a whole camp and stuff like that, and then I've gone back to my elementary school with my Dragster, which was actually probably one of the most meaningful events that I've ever done, to go back to my elementary school and have my car in the parking lot, and all of fourth grade out there. But I've hit the middle schools, the high schools, and all that. And I love giving back. It's an opportunity that I never thought I would really kind of take apart, like be part of. And I found a lot of pleasure in it. I enjoy kids. I really, really am so passionate about getting them excited about something. And when I do go out to schools, my message isn't to go drag racing. My message is to find something that fuels you, that you love, that you're passionate about, and to just go out and do it and tell everybody what you want to do. That's something my dad taught me. Like, just, you never know who's listening. You never know who might know somebody. And trust me, that's happened even within my own journey. The last person on earth you thought would have a connection all of a sudden is landing you, to the next step. So I enjoy getting out there, inspiring them, showing, especially, the girls, that they can do something that's different. It doesn't have to be, conventional, and to go out and just try it. And the same thing with the boys, like, just try it and enjoy it. And it's going to be hard. And like, I love failure. I thrive on failure. I said it and I have no shame. Like, my accident, failure. My not getting my license in 5 out of the 6 shots, that was a failure, but the reward is always so much greater. So you really have to persevere and push through and just really take in those hard times, because they don't last that long. They seem like they last really long, but then you have something to look back on and be proud of. And that's the other thing. I think a lot of kids these days just need to know that they need to have pride in what they do. Even if you go out and cut the grass, like, be proud of your work and show people that you're proud of it, and put the energy and the effort and all that into it, because great things happen when you put your all into it.
I think you could be the poster child for, you really can do whatever you set your mind to do. Especially not having the background in racing, not having the quote unquote connections, being that 12-year-old girl and looking at that car and saying, I'm going to drive that car, and then making that happen. That's awesome.
Yeah. And looking back, how I had said in the beginning, where I found it really hard to accept it. When I was driving my bracket car, I treated it so professionally. I came up with a team name. If we did car
Queen Bee, was it Queen Bee?
Queen Bee. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
My parents had polos like this that said Queen Bee Racing. We had a logo. I had a Facebook page, because I felt that, not that my personal life is anything that I need to hide, but you want to keep certain people on certain pages. So I marketed it to the best that I knew. I reached out to local magazines and local newspapers, and went out to schools and did events before I became this, jet car driver. But everything, if you go back to anything in writing from 2012 to 2015, everything says Queen of Diamonds. That's what inspired me. But I just have always kept it very clean, very professional. And that's the other thing when you go into schools, sometimes you go in with it, they'll give you a direction of what they want you to talk about, whether it be passion or, to do something different, or to talk about social media and the power and the importance of it, and for these kids to keep it clean, keep it positive, and know that, whatever you put out there, it sticks, whether you want it to or not. So I've always kept it very upbeat, very positive, and, but real, so if we had failures, you post about the failures, and then, you encourage the good things also.
Yeah. I think when, you get the best responses always when you keep it real, and being able to show a little bit of vulnerability and sharing the moments that didn't work out the way that you had them planned is just as important as saying, hey, I'm the greatest.
I agree. I think, failure and talking about it, there's nothing to be ashamed of, because all those things lead you to your next step. So you should never block those out. You should never blur them out. They're part of your life. They're part of your story. They're part of your journey. And there should be, in my eyes, there should be no shame in that game, because every little piece leads you to where you are that day presently.
So you have like this amazing soul that reaches out to people. Who do you get that from? Mom or dad, or combination of both?
My parents are good people. They're real. They're honest. They've always been super honest. Again, no filter. So I guess a little bit of both. My mom could be a little bit harder than my dad, but I
That's
don't know.
because you're daddy's girl.
Oh yeah. My
Yeah.
my mom will tell you that, and you know, you have daughters. I'm sure it's the same way. My mom says my dad's up here on a pedestal, and I could run her over with a Mack truck back up and throw her under again. But no, my dad's one of my best friends. I talk to him about everything and anything, and he's who I really take the time out and run things by, and he's very patient with me. My mom and I can butt heads, but at the end of the day, they're my biggest fans. Like I said, they went to every single race. You know, every weekend we would be in my mom's like 2006 Ford Explorer, traveling to Iowa, Michigan, wherever we had to go, we were going. And recently we were just saying, like, I miss racing, but it's not so much just driving that car for 5 seconds. I miss the quality time. I miss the memories that were made. I miss the stupid moments. I miss the eating a bologna sandwich in a Walmart parking lot at 2 a.m. because you're in the middle of Iowa and nothing's open. Like, all those little things are kind of like just the fabric, and they create everything that you're going to talk about, and the memories that you're going to be sitting on your porch in a rocking chair, like telling your grandkids one day. It's not so much how fast or how quick you went that day. It's who you were with and what was happening.
Yeah. And the track environment is awesome as well. You mentioned Maple Run. I'm originally from Baltimore, so when I used to drag race, that was my quote unquote home track.
Now, did you go to Budds Creek, Maryland?
Budds Creek, Capitol Raceway. Yeah. So
yeah.
I've been around, and then unfortunately I had kids young, so you sell the race car and you become a working dad. So I do, to this day I miss racing. We're gonna I went this afternoon to look at a Mustang. So SEMA's canceled, which
I know.
Which really kind of stinks, but at the same time, it is what it is. So we're looking for plan B, and we found a 66 Mustang body that's in halfway decent shape. So we're going to build a resto mod and then figure out what we're going to do with it once we build it. Yeah. So, yeah, I miss that stuff a lot.
Projects.
It is, and we get content out of it. So it's that's a double bonus.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a double bonus.
I think SEMA being canceled, honestly, it wasn't going to be the same if it wasn't. It wouldn't be like it was last year with the masks and all these guidelines and social distancing. So, maybe we'll just look forward to a bigger and a better year next year.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine. How do you social distance on one of the trams?
How do you social distance just walking through there?
You can't. The last couple of years, when you go through, from if you went from the North Hall to the South Hall, you can't walk that distance without bumping into people. You just can't.
It's impossible.
Yeah. So hopefully 2021 they have things dialed in a little bit and SEMA's back on. In the interim, we're gonna build a project car and go have fun with it. So what are your plans? What are you gonna do over the next?
My plan for moving forward is figuring out this dragster. Again, it hasn't run in about 5-6 years. So we just have to go through those recertification processes, the belts, the chassis, just kind of look at everything. I would love to just get out there and make a pass in it and just get that feeling again, and then decide where and what we want to do. I definitely want to do something. I just need to find the right fit. And then once I find that right fit, I'll be 110% in.
So you should probably try to catch up with David. He's out, seems like, at the track every day now.
I'm drooling over his Instagram post because I'm so jealous.
I know.
I just want to come and stand and smell the burnt rubber. Like, I'll
That's
be
right.
good with that.
Get that sensation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the opportunity one time. I think it was in Indianapolis, at the U.S. Nationals, and I was a guest of Mac Tools at the time.
Oh, cool.
And they had they have the corner box there, and I got to sit right there while the dragsters were taking off, and that sensation that you're talking about, if you've never been there, and you've never experienced it, you got to go at least once. And you're likely to go again.
You have to feel it. And we told I'm so fortunate with the amount of support I have from friends and family. I mean, people would drive hours to come watch, 10 seconds of me on the track, but they all said the same thing. People have never been to drag races before. You can hear me talk about it. I can show you pictures. You can watch a video, but it will never prepare you for what you are going to feel. Your chest, and with a jet car, if you have ever watched a jet car from the starting line, even in the bleachers on the starting line, you feel like your eyebrows are going to singe off from the flames. It's deafening how ear piercing the sound is. It's not a rumble like a Top Fuel car. And then you go down to the finish line and you watch a run down there, and it's a whole nother sensation. And then you watch a Top Fuel car and you don't feel like your eyebrows are going to singe off, but you feel like you can't breathe. You feel like your chest is going to come out. Your heart's going to come out of your chest. These are all just sensations that make me drool and want to go back to the racetrack.
Yeah. I know, and it sounds weird to people that haven't experienced it, but it is. It's like, you can't wait till the next pass to get that sensation again when you're sitting there watching it.
Or you come out covered with like burnt rubber on your face, or with the nitro cars, if you've ever been, in the tent with a warm up, and the nitro, I mean, that'll still like kill you. The smell, you're crying, you feel like you have glass in your throat, and then you're like,
do it again, do it again,
do it again.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's pretty sick, but hey, there's worse things out there.
That's right. Well, Sarah, I am so grateful that you took the time
Absolutely.
to be with us. How does what are you? Go ahead and plug yourself. What's the social media? Is it Sarah Edwards Racing?
Yep. So you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Sarah Edwards Racing, Twitter too. My website, sarahed.com. You can learn more about me. Usually if there's events or anything coming up, they would be posted there. But also I'm really good on social media with letting people know. And it's all me. So you're not, if you were to message me or had a question, feel free to do so, whether it be on a DM on Instagram or a message on Facebook. I handle all of that. So I'm happy if anybody has any questions to answer them and to follow along. I mean, I get it. It's a little quiet now, but I think we're all a little quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thank you. We're really grateful to have you. And we're probably going to call on you again at some time to have you back. Like I said earlier, you've got a great soul that I think reaches out to people.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for having me. It's an honor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Sarah.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in the Cutting Edge Garage, and we'll see you again soon.